Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video on my channel. For those of you who haven't watched any of my videos, my name is Joshua, and for those of you who have watched my content and explored topics that I discuss on my channel, I'm going to be taking a little bit of time today to reintroduce myself to you and to introduce for the first time myself to those who have never seen my content at all. So, as the title of this channel suggests, my name is Joshua. I'm a little bit about myself. I'm just a not so regular going individual who's had his fair share of mistakes in life. I've definitely made plenty of mistakes in life. And in pursuit of trying to right the wrongs of my past, I found myself in various organizations and religious institutions seeking help, seeking guidance, and just seeking to improve myself. And I struggled, obviously. Anyone who tries to set upon a path of self-improvement is going to face some adversity, and I definitely faced my fair share of it. I struggled with alcoholic addiction, or at least addictive tendencies, with more than just alcohol as well, various other forms of pleasure seeking, whether it came to drugs, food, gambling. Not so much the gambling, but I've had my moments. Sex, women, smoking, doesn't necessarily matter. I've been through the ringer. I've definitely went through the struggles when it comes to the addictive personality and the demons that it chases, I guess. And that includes even the occult and the lust for power that comes with delving into the occult. I've sought over the years to better myself, and the more that I tried to better myself, at times the worse it got. And then one day I had walked into a Bible study of all places, trying to just find God in anything that I could find, because everyone was telling me that if improvement was what I was seeking, I needed to connect to this thing called God. Couldn't quite figure out what it was, and even still I was more interested in myself. And I had walked into this Bible study, and from across the room I saw a woman that caught my attention, right, and made eye contact with her, and I don't know, something happened that just caused me to want to pursue her, right? And that woman is now my wife, right? And we dated for a little while. We talked for close to a year before we actually moved on to actually even hanging out. Didn't take long for us to get married either. But we had been dating for about a year before we'd got engaged, and then we got married. Moved into our own place together. Then within a month, found out that she had, well, I shouldn't say fallen pregnant, but we became pregnant. And that was something that we had both wanted. We had both wanted to have a child. We both wanted to experience that together. And So it came as happy news, to say the least. Um, and I was working for a family business, so to speak, doing work in the financial industry, trade industry, whatever you want to call it. Um, Basically, I was installing ATM machines, swapping out the old ones for new ones, um, doing all sorts of work for the banks, constructions, yada yada. And upon that course, while my wife was pregnant and while I was working for this financial institution, I came across some information that I started looking into uh, regarding the banking industry, how it works, right? What led to what we now know as the financial system and fiat currency and how it works and why there's so much what appears to be darkness surrounding this stuff that we call money. And the more I looked into it, the more disturbed I got, I guess. Not to say that I regret looking into it, because I don't, not at all. It's led to me becoming a happier person for the most part. I have my moments for sure, but I looked into the monetary system, and when I looked into it, red flags popped up everywhere. It started with a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island, and then I started actually researching and um, looking into the sources of information where the author of that book, whose name escapes me for the moment, um, G. Edward Griffin is his name. Uh, the sources that he was looking into, I looked into them, and the information was matching up, and I couldn't believe that that's what had happened and what led to what we now know as the monetary system. And so, um, as I was realizing that the monetary system is backed by deceit and lies and hiding things and taking advantage and capitalizing upon the ignorance of many people as far as how this system works, um, it created a mental block within my own life, and I had a hard time being able to actually work and function and um, have a semi decent time providing, money and food for my family. And so with that came a little bit of cognitive dissonance, where the further that I kept going, the worse it got. And so, upon looking into all this stuff and developing this cognitive dissonance, this block that occurred inside of me that was damn near crippling. It was blocking me from being able to perform my duties at work. I was getting into arguments with people at work about all this. I started looking into religion once again. And I began reading the Bhagavad Gita, and I was discussing it with a friend of mine one day, and out of nowhere he had blurted out something on the phone about how Krishna is the sun, and that's what the book was talking about. And I was like, wait, what? Like that didn't sound right, but it sounded plausible, and so he pointed me in the direction of one Dylan Sicosio. And those of you who have watched my channel have heard that name a few times. And so I began looking into this guy's work. He a self-proclaimed former occultist who had a change of heart, change of mind, or something. Whatever you would like to call it, whatever he would like to call it. I don't necessarily care to judge the person. But he was bringing the occult out into the open, bringing what was hidden out into the open. And so the more I looked into his work, the more things began to clear up. I began to see more clearly. So for those of you who don't know anything about Dylan Saccoccio, this guy, he looks into the language and the history of, these religious and monetary systems that are part of our everyday society now. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Taoism, and then even Egyptian, Norse, Greek, Roman mythologies, Aztec, Mayan. This guy's traveled, at least from what I can see, he's traveled to a few different places and seen a few different things. And so I began looking into everything. And the more that I looked into it, the more unsettling it became. Not just within me, but it seems that with the unsettling in me, the worse things got outside of me as well. I would start to get angry at times, have random mood swings, where most of the time I was pretty level-headed, and then out of nowhere I just snap. And I think part of that was me starting to come to grips with the world that we live in and how it was completely different from the picture that was painted when I was a child. And as most of us in the United States, at least, have seen, when we were children, there was a picture painted that our country was the greatest on earth, and that there was a reason for that. And that reason was that, we had honor and integrity and we fought for justice. And then, when you look into things a bit more, it paints a bit of a different picture. And the truth can definitely completely alter your entire paradigm on life. And it got really depressing, and so there I was, looking into the occult, looking into the monetary system, learning about psychology, learning about language, learning about these different religions and how they're all matching up, and realizing that there is a system that is in place that is meant to divide and conquer. It is meant to keep us separated, and that separation constantly has us bickering and fighting with each other about petty differences that really make no difference. Because when you look into these religious systems and these texts, for the most part, it comes down to, they're all saying the same thing with different languages and different ideals, for different geographical locations and, different, just different values that these people had based on where they were at and the time period and what they were doing. But ultimately the same, the gods are the same amongst these different religious systems for the most part. Obviously there's monotheistic religions versus polytheistic, but even amongst that, the similarities are astounding. There's far more similarities than there are differences. And when I began looking into that, I don't know, I guess I had a bit of a hard time until I guess I had started smoking weed again, and that was making things a bit weird. But one day I came across this man named Wim Hof, and he was advertising this breathing technique and cold showers and cold baths and ice baths and everything. And I figured, what could breathing do? What could breathing possibly do? I liked psychedelics those of you who have seen one of my more recent videos, obviously I'm a fan of psychedelics. I've always been a fan of the epiphanies that they brought, the change in consciousness that it would always bring. Even whether it was through fear or whether it was through an act of faith, it didn't matter. It would change my life entirely every time I did it. My favorite was mushrooms, personally, but someone had mentioned that doing breath work could dissolve the salts that surround the pineal gland, right? And I did this breath work one day, and on the third round, when I had held my breath, all of a sudden I began seeing shimmering lights in the center of my forehead and ripples just expanding outward from what I could only describe as like a pinprick right in the center of my forehead. And that was astounding to me. I couldn't figure out how breath work could do that. And a lot of people will try and say, oh, you're just hyperventilating and carbon dioxide buildup. Like, no, it's actually quite the opposite. It's oxygen buildup, and you're depleting your carbon dioxide, which is a bit weird, but you can look into Wim Hof yourself for that matter of detail. But the breath work was mind-blowing. I couldn't figure out like how something so simple could produce such a profound effect. And so I began using it as a practice. Well, when I began using it as a practice, I found that it worked really well for going into meditation. And that was one thing when I was in AA that I always struggled with. I always struggled trying to meditate, and I was always out of balance, always out of balance. Well, those of you who understand a little bit about language, meditate, that main prefix is medi, as in medium, right? Medium, meditate, right? And you're trying to find that center of balance by, you can do it with your eyes open, but you close your eyes and just try and focus on the things around you while at the same time detaching yourself. And it's a little weird, but I found that this breath work would help me find that center of balance, and I was able to meditate for at first like 10-15 minutes at a time, right? Then it became 20, 25, then it became half an hour, and then it became an hour, and I was able to sit still and keep focused, or not even focused, just like detached from the world around me while being attached to myself. And by focusing on that meditation and that meditative aspect, I should say, I was able to look inside myself and figure out many of the areas where I was falling short, and many of the areas where I was excelling in life. And that alone almost became addictive, and so it started me on a journey of learning about Hinduism, especially Hinduism, and clearing of the chakras, and working on strengthening the energy within the chakras, the chi paths, whatever you would like to call it, that rainbow bridge to the gods. I had some psychedelic experiences along the way that included that breath work, and included cannabis, and included meditation. And I had some very profound experiences where a voice from within that I've always described as the voice of reason, that logical voice that always knows what to do, and that voice of love. And by connecting to that, it seemed like everything about the world just started to make sense. And I was able to reach inside and pull out information from my own consciousness that I didn't even know that I had access to. Things about my childhood, TV shows that I had watched, movies that I had watched, all began to make sense. The allegories behind them, the message that was trying or attempted to be portrayed within these films and TV shows, they all began to make sense. And so, I mean, needless to say, that was life changing. It was an experience that I do not regret in the slightest, and it's helped me so much. And so my goal then became from there to learn or to try and teach other people so that way they could find the same happiness that I was at. And the further I looked into things, while doing this meditation, the more things came to me, and the more I was trying to help other people, the more was being revealed. It was like with that courage of stepping out of my comfort zone, getting on camera like I am right now, and with the birth of my daughter, everything started falling into place, and I was finding out more about this system and realized that ultimately humanity has been in a system of a very subtle form of slavery where most people don't even suspect it, because we've been taught this whole time that slavery is just this ball and chain and whip and go work the fields kind of slavery. But it's a much more subtle form of slavery that we're in right now. And for those of you who don't understand that, they should probably, not pay their taxes, or, start disobeying orders from police and see how far it gets you. Because the whole idea of freedom is like, I can't get forced to do what I do not want to do, and I don't get the right to force you to do something that you don't want to do. Basically, free will means like I get to do what I want so long as what I want or what I'm doing doesn't interfere with what you're doing without your consent, right? It's all about consent. And so when you look at that, it paints a picture of some desperate need to change. And the more I tried to change it, I guess that worldview, that I needed to change it so badly that I was willing and able and willing to basically go to any lengths to do so, even hurt the people around me, and it created some problems, right? If you go back and watch through my videos, you might see some instances where I was kind of angry and judgmental towards people in general, which I no longer hold that belief system today. But I was very judgmental towards people, even the ones that I called friends and the ones that I called family. And I've said some very hurtful things to them. And the more hurtful things that I said, the more disconnected from that inner voice I became. And the more bitter I became cynical, almost nihilistic. And I chased away everybody that I called my friends and called close to me. I couldn't hold down a job for more than a couple months at a time. I had tried to cut out all forms of this system that I could, and I fell victim to this whole dualistic mindset of it's all black or white. You're either all in or you're all out, and there's no such thing as progress. It's either you do it or you don't. And so that caused issues, looking into the occult and the desperate need to want to change, and at the same time, that desperate desire to even out that playing field and that power differential led me towards some paths that I wasn't really proud of. I smoked weed for the past 2 years, sober now. Began to drink here and there, which led to more issues. I wasn't always able to control it, but over the past 2 years, I was able to control the little bit of drinking that I was doing. But still, I would find that after a night of a couple drinks, the next like 4 or 5 days, I would be completely out of balance, and it would take a little while to restore any sense of normality within me. And I don't know, I guess it led to some weird issues. And in those issues, I in my what I thought was righteousness, I went onto this website Quora, and I went on to this Discussing Jesus page, and I asked a question about Catholicism and cults and pedophilia. Like, I was kind of being a little fucking troll, to be honest. And this gentleman that was on there just began picking apart my logic. Right? He tore apart my logic little bit by little bit, and at the same time, like, correlating it perfectly to biblical scripture, which I grew up reading the Bible, not understanding it, which is what caused me to look outward in other religions and other mythologies. But for 3 days straight, me and this gentleman, we volleyed back and forth, where he was trying to get me to understand, like, what it is I was even trying to say, and understand the fallacious reasoning that I was using to justify my hateful speech and my hateful actions towards others. And after 3 days of doing this, going back and forth, all of a sudden it clicked. The whole time he was sitting there trying to get me to focus on love rather than focus on what other people are doing and the hateful things that other people are doing. Because if you focus on the solution, right, the solution becomes clearer and brighter. Then it just clicked. It dawned on me that was the message that I was trying to preach the whole time. This entire time that I'd been preaching on YouTube and teaching people all this stuff, where I was doing this out of love, trying to teach people so that way they could have a better life and, get to the understanding of things that I had gotten to. And at the same time, I was blind to the fact that I was doing it the wrong way. And this guy helped me see it, and so I think I was taking a break from videos at the time. I do that from time to time so that way I can work on making sure that my life is in order, because I don't want to lead people astray. I'd rather people keep on the path. And, if anything, I'd rather fall off the path and, take 15 other people with me. So when I feel like I'm in that headspace, I'd rather just not post videos at all. I'd rather not teach people at all than to drag other people down into the muck with me, because I know how it feels to be in that muck. I've put myself through that ringer so many times, and each time it gets worse and worse, and it's so easy to fall into that trap of hatred. And after that 3 days, I remember looking at my wife and, like, almost crying. I was just sitting there like, my fucking head hurts, like how could I have gone so wrong? How could I have missed the obvious? And it all comes down basically to love, love or hate. You can't serve both at the same time. And so that whole time, while my intentions were pure, my actions were painting a different story, and I couldn't even see it. And not to say that the information that I presented was incorrect, but the way that I was going about it, by attacking other people for not knowing this information or for the things that they were doing, I was probably creating more of an issue for myself and everybody else around me. And ultimately, like, it all led back to Christ, that, and I know a lot of people might have some internal blockage and automatic response to reject anything I say based off of that, and that's okay. You don't have to accept it. It's probably a better choice. But when you focus on the problem gets worse. And when you spew hatred at anything, it only makes it worse. Even if you spew hatred at hateful acts, it only makes it worse. So I had to learn to accept the things that I could not change, like that serenity prayer says. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And through my life experience and the continuing on in my folly, the foolish man became wise, and I gained understanding. And that understanding was that I was being my own worst enemy. And so my understanding from that and the way out, it came from just 3 simple words found in Matthew 5:44: love thine enemies. And that gentleman that I had argued with for that 3 days pointed this out to me. He'd actually written a little short story painting the picture that, like, if one is one's own worst enemy, then in order to be able to love anybody or anything else, one has to learn to love themselves first. Otherwise, they're a hypocrite, and hypocrisy reflects duality. And for those of you who don't understand that, I'll be working on conveying that information in the near future. This video was more so about myself and what led up to me making this video. And from here on out, I plan on being on a more consistent schedule. I am a father. I am married. I am employed. I do work. I work quite a bit because I'm working to try and create some sort of financial stability, as stable as you can get in today's world. I am working on building stability for myself and for my family. And so I hope that all who come across this channel understand this. I know that many of you came from that comment thread about the Pope and occultism. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that me getting in the comments section for a little bit can bring attention to ultimately God and truth. Just understand that sometimes the things that I say are logically false, and that's with anybody, and so I hope that you don't judge me for that. What I hope to do is, in the coming days, equip people with a skill set that will lead them to the truth, and I'm not perfect at it. I don't think anybody is, at least not here, right? But the whole point is, all of this led me back to the words of Christ, not the New Testament, strictly the words of Christ, and so I guess the point of me making this video is not only to reintroduce myself and introduce myself to those who are new, but also to make a declaration of my mission statement, and that is to lead humanity away from this system of enslavement that has been occurring on this planet for ultimately thousands of years, and towards a system of freedom and love and unity between everybody that wishes to be in unity and wishes to have some semblance of peace, stability, sanity. Because believe me when I say I've been through it. Just understand first and foremost that there are definitely people out there that do not want you to succeed. I'm not claiming that is me, but even when it comes to the information that I present to you and the way that I present myself, it is wise for a person to remember that some people don't want you to succeed. Some people want you to fail. And some people may claim that that's me shooting myself in the foot. And that's okay. You know, I haven't done that. You know, it's not like I haven't done that a fucking 100 times before. But my point is that there are liars out there. There are people that strictly want to tell the truth. There are people that genuinely want to help. There are people that genuinely want to hurt. There are people who are completely fucking indifferent to you and your problems and don't give a shit and just want to be left alone. You know, I would rather help make the world a better place, because I want my daughter to enjoy the same freedom that I want everybody else to enjoy. You know, I want my daughter to be able to walk down the street and not worry about problems occurring from point A to point B because someone's, you know, doing some weird stuff, you know, because there are weirdos out there too. But the biggest thing is to draw people closer to the divine source, our creator, the capital C creator of life, that I've come to know and ultimately love. You know, there is a God. There is a source. It's not that I believe. I know that there is God. There's no doubt in my mind about that. There is a God. There's actually technically two. There's a God of the living and a God of the dead. Right? I choose to serve the God of the living, the God of truth, the God of light, not the God of darkness. Okay? And I hope that any following that I can get only serves to glorify the God of the living. Because, I mean, I'm just a person. You know, I'm me. I'm a person. You know, I'm a human being. I make mistakes. You know, and with each mistake comes a little bit better understanding. But what I seek is to spare some of you the suffering that I had to go through in order to get some of this information, in order to find the stability and find the wisdom that I've found. I mean, I'm less than 30 years old, and I've been through more suffering than most people go through, and it's almost all of it's been self-inflicted. Okay, let's not twist anything. I'm not blaming anybody else for my fucking issues. Okay, I take full responsibility for my problems. I am the maker of all my problems, and with the power of God, I've also been the writer of the best parts of my story too. The best parts of my story have been life-changing, and I mean, I'm not here to dog on occultism. Occultism led me right back to God and gave me a fuller understanding of the divine source of creation. So, let's get that clear. For those of you who come onto my channel expecting me to bash on religion, bash on occultism, bash on people, like I've said it before, you know, that's not my motto. You know, I'm all about whatever way brings you to God, the true God of the living. I'm all for it. You know, whether it's smoking weed or freaking dropping acid, I don't care. I'm not going to judge you for it. As long as you don't drop acid and try and eat someone's face off, I don't care. You know, I find that funny that I have to make that little disclaimer. But just bear with me in the coming weeks. I haven't been able to do much as far as presentations goes. I've my tripod broke, so I haven't been able to really set up any kind of camera system. Not recently. In the near future, I'll be getting another tripod for my phone. I'm also working on writing a book, and I'm also working on being able to create PowerPoint presentations to where I can organize things into a bit more structured manner. I'm working on a lot of things right now. So please have patience, bear with me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. You know, just also keep in mind that I don't necessarily care for personal attacks. So if I say something wrong, let's keep it civil. If you say something wrong, I'll keep it civil. Just please um, remember that the goal is love and unity, not hatred and duality. We're not trying to serve divisions and splitting and separation here. We're trying to dissolve boundaries so that way we can all see the oneness of this place and we can understand the balance. And so that way we can restore this world to balance, because something has definitely gone awry here on this planet. So, with that being said, I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, fantastic night, fantastic weekend. I hope that I can talk with some of you in the coming days, and I hope that we can see better days as a people soon. And it all starts with love and unity. And with that, my name is Josh, and I'm out.